Live from the NCS studios in Los Angeles, California, it's the Nintendo Cartridge Society 200th episode spectacular, starring Patrick Ellers and Mark Mitchell. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you! Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how is it going, sir?
It's going amazing. I have to pee really bad, but I am using that energy to propel me through this anniversary episode.
Bold, because we've got a long road ahead of us here, and if you've got to pee now, Mark, I don't know how we're going to do this. With
dignity.
With much gusto and dignity, of course.
Always dignity.
So which means, I guess, that we will start by talking about our bodily functions and our need to address them. Before we get into our 200th episode spectacular, there's something that we need to always remind you of. Of course, if you want to, you can participate in our Sonic Forces borrowing program. What better way to celebrate a 200th anniversary? And I know that the word anniversary means years, that many years have passed. But our 200th episode, then by borrowing my copy of Sonic Forces.
I can think of no better way.
There is none, Mark! All you gotta do is send an email with your mailing address to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And I send it to you, and it's great. Mark, what are we doing today? How are we celebrating 200 episodes together?
Okay.
Yeah.
Listeners of this show will know that we are great at making definitive lists.
Yes, and we are so good at it that I would say that we have become a little bit boastful about how definitive our lists are.
But here's the problem. We've been doing this for 200 episodes.
Right.
And that's a long time. People change.
Yes. They grow. They learn. They mature.
Every day, I am a little bit different. I'm like a stone in a river.
Right. How so? In that you're slowly being worn down?
Yes, exactly.
Eventually you will be ground to nothing. Look, the point is, we've made a lot of these lists, and some of them you've been participating with us, and sometimes we have guests here to help us. There's been no consistent formula. Sometimes we just say, this is the best one of these things. Sometimes we rank them. Sometimes we say, here are 8 good ones.
Look, these are definitive rankings, no doubt. But what if we got some of them wrong?
Now, I'm not saying necessarily that we did get any of them wrong, but look, we are invested in the quality of this show, and we realize we've never done any quality assurance. So today, we are going to assure you of the quality of all 11 lists that we have previously made on this show, and we will determine if they are now indeed still definitive or not.
And if they're not definitive, they will be sunsetted.
Thrown out.
They will become lame duck definitive lists.
Through the end of the year, they will
right.
still be definitive.
They'll be definitive until January 1st, 2019, in which case they will no longer become definitive.
And there will be, I'm sure, some lists that we encounter here that we say, that list is definitive. We did a good job. That one stays. And who knows the next time that we will have to go through and do quality assurance, but it will be up for review at that time as well. So, Mark, without too much further ado, should we get into our first list?
Please.
Let's do it. Actually, before we jump into that, should we just go over what all of the lists are so people know what to look forward to? So in this order, we will be talking about our ranking of the Zelda console games, the ranking of the Metroid games, the ranking of the console Mario games, ranking the Koopalings, the best Smash Fighter, ranking the Zelda Ocarina of Time dungeons, ranking the Kongs, determining the best Pokemon starter, ranking the worlds from Super Mario Bros. 3, top 8 RPGs on Nintendo platforms, best Zelda NPC, and top 8 NES games. Mark, let us start with ranking the console Zelda games.
May 16th, 2017.
May 16th, 2017. That's a long time ago. It's like a year and a half ago we made this list.
Our episodes were still just one episode a week.
Yep.
One long episode a week.
One very long episode during the week, and that episode would be news. And then I guess in the back half, where like I still have energy to rank something. I don't know how we did this.
I don't know how we did it either.
But so this list, we're ranking the Zelda games, right? And we left off all of the handheld Zeldas, and no like spin-offs. There's no Link's crossbow training in here. There's no Hyrule Warriors or anything of that ilk. Just sort of like the main series. And we did not get any listener input on this one. This is sort of before we thought like, hey, maybe our listeners should be helping us create these lists.
Yeah, what were we thinking?
There's a lot of hubris in these early lists. So let's go through it from worst to best. So coming in at number 9, Skyward Sword. Number 8, Zelda 2. Number 7, The Legend of Zelda. Number 6, The Ocarina of Time. Number 5, Twilight Princess. Number 4, Wind Waker. Number 3, Majora's Mask. Number 2, A Link to the Past. And at number 1, The Legend of Zelda, The Breath of the Wild.
Now, one point of order before we get too deep into this.
Yes.
I feel like if there is one misplaced item on a list, that's potential grounds for dismissal.
I agree with that 100%. And in fact, even if... No, I think that's it. You're right. Anything misplaced that we should then reevaluate. And we are not determining what that new list is here.
No.
We are only saying whether something is definitive or not.
Very binary.
So I am concerned in these early goings especially that we are going to come up against some knots pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
So in ranking the Zelda games, do you think that there's anything obvious or glaring that we have done in this list? There are a couple things that jump out to me. One is that we put Skyward Sword number 9 on this list when neither of us have played Skyward Sword, really?
Well, we were very upfront about that. That's like the reason that we ranked it so low.
I'm sure, but we put it below The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 as like games that we would want to play right now. And then the Ocarina of Time is the next on there. I feel like that's the bottom half of the bracket, that the Ocarina of Time is in there. I mean, we did another episode where we ranked the dungeons in Ocarina of Time, and you and I are just singing its praises from start to finish.
Well, I mean, doesn't mean Ocarina of Time is a bad game. It just means that it's not as good as the ones above it.
Okay. And the ones above it are Twilight Princess, a game you don't really like, Wind Waker, Majora's Mask, a game that stresses me out, A Link to the Past, and Breath of the Wild, which I agree, Link to the Past and Breath of the Wild belong in the number 1 and 2 spots, as they are, or possibly reversed. But what do you think? Do you think this list holds up over time, or do you think that we should discredit it as no longer definitive?
I actually kind of think it's a pretty solid list.
You think probably definitive?
Yeah. But I'm open to the argument against it. Here's what I will say.
Yeah, tell me what you will say.
I think we maybe undervalued Wind Waker, even though it's in 4th place. And I think we maybe undervalued Ocarina of Time. And I think it's telling that after the fact, like, we couldn't really remember which one we put as first.
Oh, I remembered that we did Breath of the Wild. I had A Link to the Past on my personal list. But when push came to shove, I think we were both like, yeah, Breath of the Wild is one of the greatest games ever made, and is certainly at that time was still sort of the new hotness, right? Like when we did this list, the game had only been out
for like 2 months.
yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're being a little bit
babies.
We were babies, and the Switch was a baby, and the game was a baby. I think we have to throw this list out. I don't think that. I do believe that both Ocarina and Wind Waker should be higher, and I don't know why on the list that I'm generating, Majora's Mask is as high as it is. So I think we have to. I think this is a topic that we will have to reevaluate at a different time.
I think that's fair because even though I love Breath of the Wild,
yes,
I think 2 months was a little bit early for us to definitively rank it.
Declare it the best Zelda game of all time.
The best Zelda game of all time.
All right, so our very first list from almost 2 years ago, ranking the console Zelda games, has now been rendered null and void.
No longer definitive.
No longer definitive.
And again, stressing this point of order.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that we were wrong.
No, absolutely
It has been definitive up to this point, and will continue to be definitive until December 31st of this year.
Right, at midnight.
Uh-huh.
Pacific time.
Yes.
But then, yes, after that time, the list goes in the garbage. It can become a topic for future conversation, or maybe we fold it into something else. All we know is, as of right now,
no longer definitive.
Right, no longer definitive, heading into the new year. All right, Mark, our next list, we are ranking the Metroid games.
I'm still a little bit angry about this one. Not angry. Angry is not the right word.
So this is one where I went back and listened to most of our conversation about this. We had no listener feedback, and this was from June 20th, 2017.
So Samus Returns hadn't come out.
Samus Returns had not come out, which we'll get to that in a second. So we did not include Metroid Prime Hunters, Metroid Prime Pinball, or Metroid Prime Federation Forces in this, which I think is good because they would have just clouded up the bottom of the list. But so here they are from number 9 to number 1. The bottom of the list, number 9, Metroid, Other M. Number 8, Metroid. Number 7, Metroid 2, The Return of Samus. Coming in at number 6 is Metroid Prime 2. Number 5 is Metroid Prime 3. Number 4 is Metroid Fusion. Number 3 is Metroid Prime. Number 2 is Metroid Zero Mission. And number 1 is Super Metroid.
I can't believe we were still doing one long episode in June of 2017.
Yeah, well, I think that was right before because all the rest of our lists come in their own separate episodes. But man, what a good format change. I think that is one of the smarter things that we've done where like you want to listen to the news and two guys rank Metroid
for 2.5 hours.
It's too long. So I think, look, I'm going to say our format change, definitive. I think that's good. It's going to hold all the way through the new year. It'll be great. So we did reach a little bit of a stalemate at the end of this episode.
I think the only time that ever happened.
Yes. So Mark came in repping Metroid Zero Mission, and I was repping Super Metroid. I wanted Super as the number 1. Mark wanted Zero Mission. And we did not. I think the only reason Mark gave up ground on that number 1 position was that it was late June and getting hot in my apartment. And so, and again, as previously discussed, we record these things for like 2 hours because we had done the news prior to this, no break. And then we just got to a point where Mark was like, I just need it to end.
It was like a 2-person production of 12 Angry Men.
That's right. We were, in fact, 12 Angry Men. And also, that's on many of these lists, we've made 12 Angry Men references, I find, in listening back to them. So we are definitive, but we know one theater reference. So, couple of problems here. Couple of problems with this list. One is that a very good Metroid game has come out since we made the list. And Samus Returns, I think, would appear on here, possibly even above like Prime 3. Certainly above Prime 2, maybe even above Prime 3. And then there is the issue of Super versus Zero.
Right, we never really came to a full and complete consensus. Now, I'm going to posit that this is one that we would need a third party for.
I think you're right. Yes.
Because we need that tiebreaker.
Right, because if we were to recast this list today, we would have the same stalemate at number 1. It would just happen that way again. And there's no other like game in there that like I could give as a concession to you for you to be like, okay, now I'm okay with it.
Right.
In your mind, Zero Mission is a better game than Super Metroid. You're insane, but I love you. So I think we have to register this one as no longer definitive.
I mean, I think it'll be for the good of the show.
I think so too.
We can't let this like poison the well.
No, I mean, there has been a silent wedge between us. If you go back and listen to episodes before our Metroid list and episodes after, there's a distinct change in tone. Mark and I have not been friends for the last year and a half. I'm sorry to bring this out on the air. Of course, we go through and do our job because we're professionals.
Yeah, we're like sitcom stars that don't like each other.
Exactly. We're like,
I don't know,
Schwimmer and Cox.
Yeah,
there we go. It's the famous Beef on Friends, right? I just made that up. Okay, ranking the Metroids out. So far, we are 0 for 2.
Yeah, but that's to be expected.
Right.
Again, we were practically in our early 20s at that point. We didn't know anything.
I mean, just patently false. All right, our next list, we were ranking the console Mario games. We did not have listener input, and this is our very first list in 2018. It is from January 11th, 2018. So I think it's interesting that all of these early lists are huge categories that were like, let's take one of the largest Nintendo franchises and just rank all of the games.
Yeah, we didn't like ease ourselves into this.
No.
We were just like, okay.
We start with big swings here. Mm-hmm. Should I read through the list from worst to best?
Yeah.
Okay. Coming in at number 12 in the worst console Mario game, Super Mario Brothers. Number 11, Super Mario Sunshine. Number 10, New Super Mario Brothers Wii. Number 9, Super Mario 64. Number 8, New Super Mario Brothers U. Number 7, Super Mario Brothers 2. Number 6, Super Mario 3D World. Number 5, Super Mario Odyssey. Nope, this is not right. I have Super Mario Odyssey on here twice. In any event.
One must be Galaxy.
One must
first
be
Galaxy.
Oh, yes. So number 5 is Super Mario Galaxy. Number 4 is Super Mario Odyssey. Number 3 is Galaxy 2. Number 2 is Super Mario Brothers 3. And number 1 is Super Mario World.
I'm going to tell you right now, in hindsight, I don't think Super Mario World should be our number 1 game.
Do you think Super Mario Brothers 3 should be our number 1 game?
I think that would be up for debate.
I also think that we've got Super Mario 64 so low on this list.
We do have it very low. I think that was actually partly my fault. I don't think it's that fun to go back to.
Oh, I really like that game, even going back to it way, way, way later. Yeah, so one of the I pulled a choice quote from us trying to figure out the rankings of the top 3, which we had as Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers 3, and Super Mario Galaxy 2. I said, I think we came up with a great list. This was impossible to do, right?
And it was, because I don't think we got it right.
I don't think we got it right either. I think we did a bad job. Super Mario Brothers 2 I like that game, but it's way too high on this list.
Well, and I now think I would put Galaxy above Galaxy 2.
Oh, I still hold that Galaxy 2 is probably better than Galaxy, but I think I like Odyssey better than both of them.
I could maybe see that. Because again, now I have more space from Odyssey.
Right.
And I've been like playing it again recently, and I've rediscovered like the things that I like about it that I didn't necessarily appreciate when it first came out.
It is also a game that has grown in content since we made this list. It has more features.
I also just think that we put World way too high.
Wow, you think way too high?
I think there are several games on this list that are like easily better than World.
All right. So we did a bad job on this one.
Yeah, we really stunk this up.
Look. The other ones, I think we are saying like, oh, there's room for this to be not definitive.
Yes,
it will not see it's this same position.
This is a garbage pail of a list.
We did a bad job, and I just want to go on record here saying that no one called us out on it. Like, we should have gotten emails from y'all being like, you're wrong. You're stupid. You smell weird. I can tell because your rankings of Mario are wrong.
Yeah, this was real lettuce between the teeth situation.
That's right. So it's embarrassing a little bit for us, but really it looks worse on you. All right. So that one is no longer definitive. Mark, we are moving on to our next list, which I believe ushers in a new era of eccentricity and esoteric sort of obsession for us. We ranked the Koopalings. With this one, we had no listener input. It is from February 1st, 2018. So from the bottom up, the list goes as follows. Number 7, Iggy Koopa. Number 6, Larry Koopa. Number 5, Lemmy Koopa. Number 4, Morton Koopa Jr. Number 3, Ludwig von Koopa. Number 2, Wendy O. Koopa. And coming in at number 1, Roy Koopa. Mark, tell me how you feel about this list.
My big regret with this list is that we didn't get listener input.
I also feel bad about not having listener input on this one.
Because for like this one and the Kong one, which we also don't have listener input, like actually there's a lot in this middle period here where I think we really would have benefited from listener insight.
So I do agree with that. However, there are some things on this list that we got so right. Like Roy number 1,
yeah,
Wendy number 2, Ludwig number 3. Those 3 I feel great about. Iggy number 7, perfect, right? It is the 4, 5, 6 of Morton, Lemmy, Larry that I don't necessarily know if we got right.
Mm-hmm.
But this may be the first one that I do. Well, we didn't have listener input, and it would be nice to have gotten listener input. I think we nailed this one.
I think so too, and that's what pains me.
Right?
Because I would love to revisit this with listener input, but when you're right, you're right. And we were on the money.
So, I mean, we could rehash the whole conversation, but I think we nailed it. And, you know, we had some good conversations about Ludwig's last name, Von Koopa. Is there a Von Koopa family? Is the O in Wendy O Koopa short for something? Does Morton Koopa Jr. think that Bowser's name is Morton? And, like, he just misheard him? So, I think we just have to say that this is a definitive list.
Yeah, agreed. You can't see, but we are shaking each other's hands.
That's right.
Sealing the contract. What I, at least for another year, or however, the next time we do another quality assurance,
right,
this list will live on. But here is what I will say.
Tell me.
If you, dear listener, have thoughts on the Koopa Kids, I 100% want to hear them.
Yeah, and Mark doesn't even mean like for the show. Like, you just email us your thoughts on the Koopa Kids, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, and I will send them to Mark, and he will read them before going to bed. And maybe we'll talk about them on the show. I don't know. Our next list, not a list. It is our first time determining the best of something. The best Smash Fighter. This one we had a guest, Mr. Richie Root, friend of the show. We did this list on March 1st, 2018. And we did not rank anyone here. We did not give like our top 5 or whatever. We came in and had the entire Smash roster in front of us and said, who is the best?
We also had no listener input for this one. Another missed opportunity.
I think this is a huge missed opportunity.
We were babes. We didn't know any better.
We were babes. We landed on Captain Falcon, and in our final like group of 6 that we were discussing, the finalists were Duck Hunt, Pit, Little Mac, Jigglypuff, and Mr. Game & Watch.
I have 2 problems with this list.
Okay.
1, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is coming out, which changes the dynamics. And 2, when you look at our finalists, that is a crazy list.
It's insane, right? I mean, and we were sort of the whole way championing weirdos, right? And
for sure.
Part of that is because Richie came in with an agenda. Richie came in being like...
He did not have an open mind.
No. He came in pitching Jigglypuff as the best, and he stuck to it for like an hour and a half. And it, made for a good episode.
It was like 12 Angry Men.
Yes, that's right. But we arrived at Captain Falcon,
which I'm going to say
is a pretty good
pick.
A
really solid pick.
And, we made solid arguments for it at the time, including that, like, he's a Nintendo character and, like, F-Zero is cool. It is the Smash series that turned him into something. And then, he's been with the series forever. And, like, Ganondorf, started as like a clone character of him, and like Ganondorf should already have his own move. Like, he's a physical character that's existed in other games. But like Captain Falcon ends up being like the sort of progenitor of all this other stuff. So like he's a very important part of the Smash franchise.
Yeah, like the end result, I think makes total sense. It's like the path we got to get there.
Yeah,
is maybe a little suspect. It's like the first season of Glee, right? You like had the first episode, the pilot, and you're
every other one is good.
And no, you're like, this episode is strong. And then if you saw like the like finale or something of the first season
of Glee, yeah,
that's all I watched. You would be like, yes, this makes sense. Like I can see how the first episode led to the last episode. But if you watch any of the episodes in the middle, you're like, this is just completely bonkers. This doesn't make any sense. We're zigging, we're zagging.
Yeah. Well, and I think that regardless of how we felt about our end results or even our process getting there, the fact that Ultimate is out there, it changes everything, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If for no other reason, even if we don't count any of the new characters, we were not using legacy characters that don't show up in Smash 4. So, like, there's no Snake, right? There's no Young Link. There's no Pichu. So, like, I think it is time. It will be time for us to do another one of these lists, almost certainly with listener input, just because we need it. All right, so that one is being marked as non-definitive, which hurts because I like that one and I like Richie. It's a good episode. You should go back and listen to it.
We should try to get him back if we ever re-rank it again.
Right. All right, so our next list is ranking the Zelda, the Ocarina of Time dungeons. This one had some limited listener support. I think we reached out like on Twitter and Facebook, but we weren't really soliciting emails about it. And it was from March 8th, 2018. This is the week after we did Smash Fighters. So I think we got on a little bit of a tear here. We got like a taste for it, and we were like, well, I like those lists. I'm going to make some lists. So, oh boy, Mark, where to even begin on this one? Should I start with listing them off?
Yeah.
Okay. So in 8th place, we have a tie for last between the Fire Temple and Dodongo's Cavern. Number 7 is Lord Jabu Jabu's Belly. Number 6 is the Shadow Temple. Number 5 is Ganon's Castle. Number 4 is the Water Temple, with a note from Patrick and Mark at the time saying, suck it, haters. Number 3 is the Deku Tree. Number 2 is the Forest Temple. And number 1 is the Spirit Temple. One thing to note is that we did not distinguish between the child and adult versions of the Spirit Temple. And we also didn't include the ice caverns or inside the well.
Why did we hate? I mean, I know we played the game, like the 3DS version of the game, right before we did these rankings.
Yes.
I have no memory of why we hated the Fire Temple so much.
I don't know either.
I mean, Dodongo's Cavern, like, yeah, I 100% get that.
I only sort of get it in retrospect because, like, it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Well, but that's like true of every dungeon in this game.
That they're all fine,
or like at the bare minimum.
Yeah. So I think the top of our list is smart. I think Spirit Temple, Forest Temple, Deku Tree, and Water Temple. I think that all makes sense, and then even Ganon's Castle. Like, I think that the top 5 there are pretty unimpeachable. Spirit Temple is great. It is a ton of fun and super interesting and weird, and just like the storytelling in it is awesome. And the Forest Temple is scary, makes you think of death. I mean, it's good. It's a good top of the list. What do you think about the bottom of the list?
I still think it holds. I don't know that I would change anything.
I will agree with you, Mark. Okay. I think this list is going to remain definitive.
Yeah. Even though I don't remember why I disliked the Fire Temple so much, I appreciate the fact that I must have hated it.
Yeah, well, and
I trust my older self in this instance.
That's right. And I mean, we, came up with the innovative solution of tying 2 temples for last place.
Again, not sure why.
But it's good. It's good. We did it.
It is deemed good. Grade A.
And again, it would have been more fun to have more listener input on that one. But this is before we figured out how to do that, really. Next list. Ranking the Kongs. This is one where we had no listener input, and we did it on April 5th, 2018. Mark, do you want to read us through this one?
Yeah, so in last place is Tiny Kong, followed by Mankey Kong, Candy Kong, Kitty Kong, Lanky. I'm just going to do the first part.
Right,
there's
fine.
No reason.
All right, fine.
Lanky, Chunky, Swanky, Donkey Kong Jr., Wrinkly, Donkey, Funky, Dixie, Diddy, and our best Kong is Cranky.
Right, so just to review, the top 5 means that at number 5 is Donkey Kong, 4 is Funky, 3 is Dixie, 2 is Diddy, and 1 is Cranky. Just like, so that's how we prioritize them. We ranked Dixie Kong above Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I still feel good about that.
Okay. And
we even ranked Funky.
Yeah, we ranked Funky above Donkey. I don't know about this list.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say, I think it's pretty solid. The only thing I would maybe change is, like, bump Candy down further.
So we had Candy Kong at number 12, beating only Mankey Kong, Mankey being the, like, evil Kong, right? And Tiny, who is the much derided character from, second player from Donkey Kong Country 3. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we maybe need a little bit of outside assistance to actually do this list proper. Because I feel like you and I, and especially when we're together, we've got some weird baggage about Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Country 2 specifically.
That's true, and we really egg each other on.
That's true.
In our Donkey Kong Country 2 like hate. Although I will say,
Dixie's very high.
But that's not based on Donkey Kong Country 2.
No. What is it based on?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
Well, okay. So this is one where I feel like we just need to throw it out, partially because we are not. I feel like we need another expert in here, or some listener input, or something along those lines.
You're right. We need an outside, like, impartial observer to tell us, like, we are crazy.
Yes.
Or maybe we're not crazy, but we can't tell because it's crazy egging on crazy.
That's right. We're crazy times crazy. We're crazy squared. And so, we have a list here. I still think it represented us at the time. Again, it was definitive. It will no longer be definitive. And that's just that. All right, Mark, our next list is not a list at all, but our determination of the best Pokemon starter. This is one that we did with a lot of listener feedback. It is from June 7th, 2018, with special guest Oscar Montoya. We landed on Froakie. And the other Pokemon in our top 3 were just that we were pitting against each other at the end were the Charmander and Rowlet, and of course the Froakie.
And I think it was like Rowlet and Froakie for the top 2.
I think that is correct, yeah. And in the end, it was just the Froakie. All we were determining then was the best. Mark, how do you feel about this decision?
I think that the end result is defendable.
Uh-huh.
What I think it's a missed opportunity that it is not a ranking, and that it is only
a number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, right? Because I mean, when you go back and say our top 3 were Froakie, Rowlet, and Charmander, that makes perfect sense to me.
Sure.
Right? And it's like, yeah, those are 3 great Pokemon. 3 great Pokemon to start. We're representing all the types from across generations. We're like, wow, we did such a good job. I think this is one that I may want to say is definitive provisionally until the new, like, next generation Pokemon comes out, at which point we'll need to throw it out and determine a new best starter.
I agree with that, because while it's possible we could have done better,
yes,
I don't know that we would have come to a, like, better result. Does that make sense? Like, the process maybe could have been better, but I still think the top 3.
I thought the process was very good.
The process was awesome.
Right.
We had great listener input. Oscar was an amazing guest.
Right.
And we came to, like, a great solution.
Yes.
Like, a great answer. Like, I could defend
a great answer that we could all believe in.
Yes.
Right. I did spend like 90% of that episode trash talking Froakie and saying that he was gross. So, I mean, if nothing else, this list represents some amount of hypocrisy on my part. So
we just should enshrine that.
I'm saying it is provisionally definitive until the release of the next generation Pokemon in 2019.
Fair.
So this is one, and the second that game comes out, this list is no longer definitive.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
And when we do readdress it, we may wind up back at Froakie, or we'll wind up at Charmander or something, and whatever happens, happens. But for now, this one remains definitive. Our next list, Mark, we ranked the worlds from Super Mario Bros. 3. We had no input, and we did the list on July 5th, 2018, just about a month after the best Pokemon starter. Do you want to run us through the ranking here?
Number 8 is Iceland. Number 7 was Desertland. Number 6, Waterland. Number 5, Giantland. Number 4, Grassland. Number 3, Pipeland. Number 2, Darkland. Number 1, Skyland.
I think we nailed this one.
I have no rebuttal.
I think it's perfect. Iceland is terrible, and Skyland is magical. So, I don't know. I don't think there's anything in here that I would argue with.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I would switch the place of Giantland and Grassland.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Okay, fair.
All right, perfect. That's an easy one. It's going to stay definitive. Now things start to get hard. The next list is the top 8 RPGs on Nintendo platforms. This one had a lot of listener input. We did it on August 2nd, 2018. Our list in no particular order. Mark, you want to take us through?
Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Paper Mario, Earthbound, Animal Crossing New Leaf, Pokemon Crystal, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is an RPG, and Secret of Evermore.
Right. So this one is a very personal list for us, I think, because you've got Animal Crossing New Leaf on there, which I feel like is a Mark, that is a Mark entry, and Secret of Evermore for me is a very Patrick entry. No one else is going to put those games on that list. But I also feel like because we got so much listener input and because there's full of like so many esoteric personal choices that it is definitive. I don't know. How are you feeling about this list, Mark?
I have no complaints with this list. I think we really nailed it. I think it's a good cross section. I think the fact that Animal Crossing New Leaf is on here is surprising. I forgot about that.
Yep. It's very surprising. And that Pokemon Crystal is the Pokemon game that's on here?
Huh.
It's all very surprising. Part of that was from listener email, and just like we knew that we wanted like an early Pokemon game in there, and having like the third version of the second generation felt right to us.
You didn't even think Pokemon was a RPG.
I did.
I'm remembering this now,
right.
And I'm angry again.
Don't be angry, Mark. What I'm saying is I think we probably did do a good job on this list.
Yeah, I think so too.
So this one is going to be definitive. Thank you again to everyone who helped us out with that. I'm still glad that there's no Golden Sun game on here. Our next list is not a list at all. We came up with the best Zelda NPC. Had a ton of listener input from September 13th, 2018, with special guest Omar Najam. Our final, our best Zelda NPC is the Happy Mask Salesman. The other finalists included Ravio, Tingle, the Windfish, Skull Kid, Salvatore, Midna, Akuku, and Maggie from Wind Waker. How do you feel about this one, Mark?
I am happy with this list.
Yes.
I think it was a great choice. I don't feel strongly that it's definitive.
That is interesting. So you think it's possible that this is not definitive?
Yes.
In what way do you think it is not definitive?
I think if we got Omar back, put us all in a room, even have the same exact listener input, we could come up with a different answer.
I think you're probably right, but we did arrive at the Happy Mask Salesman as sort of like a prototypical character that arises in Zelda over and over again.
The logic is solid.
Right, that he's the mysterious merchant that has access to things that we don't understand. And the fact that he manages to be not like the villain of Majora's Mask, but like just is something that spurs on like the end of the world. It's a fascinating character.
Actually, you talked me back into it.
Yes. And I think the other finalists that we got to, I think we highlighted some great characters in this list.
And a lot of that came from listener input.
Absolutely. Maggie, great call. Salvatore, great call. The Windfish, another perfect call, especially if you consider that the entirety of
Link's Awakening
exists within a dream of the Windfish, which means if you like any of the personalities on Koholint Island, you like the Windfish.
Yeah, I really wasn't. I was like, solid on this list, like B plus. But now I'm like, yeah, we did knock it out of the park.
I think this is it's one of our all-time great episodes.
Unimpeachable.
Unimpeachable. We did a great job. Definitively, the Happy Mask Salesman is the best Zelda NPC. Which brings us then to the list that we made just last week. The 8 best NES games.
No, that can't be true. Like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
It has to be.
Has to be 2 weeks ago. Are you sure? We made this list on November 8th, 2018. We did it with a bunch of listener input. No guest on this one. And our top 8 are in no particular order. Super Mario Bros. 3, The Legend of Zelda, Mega Man 3, Castlevania 3, DuckTales, Dr. Mario, Dragon Warrior 3, and Duck Hunt. What are you thinking, Mark?
I know we only did this a week ago.
Yeah, you think it's not definitive anymore.
I don't feel good about it.
I don't feel good about it either. I think I believe and I understand the logic that we used on this. I think this is a topic that needs further examination or maybe a different number of games.
It just feels wrong for some reason. Like I can't put my finger on it.
I can't either. And I don't know what it is. Super Mario Bros. 3 and The Legend of Zelda, obviously great games. Actually, all of these are great games.
Yeah, they're all solid choices. And like there's a defense for all of them.
Yeah.
But I think this is maybe my least favorite list that we've talked about.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe that's because there's no like going down memory lane here on this one. But I mean, other than the memory lane that is back to 1987 when we were playing these games for the first time. But yeah, I think this is one that we are unfortunately going to have to reject as non-definitive.
But maybe it's better that we are cutting it off now, like a fetid limb.
Yeah,
sure.
Instead
of letting it linger until it infects the host.
That's right. We are not going to have a gangrenous infection of the host of the show. We're going to sever the limb, and that'll be that.
I think it's good for us.
I think it's good for us too. And also, I mean, again, This does not mean that any of your contributions were wrong. We took very few notes from people, I think, on this one,
and maybe that's where we were misguided a little bit.
Yeah,
we thought we were too smart.
We did.
But also, here's the important thing. Very important to stress and remember.
Yes.
We weren't wrong.
No. And this list will be definitive through the end of the year. So if you get a chance to play any of these definitive games. Also, I mean, Star Tropics isn't even on this list.
I tried.
You tried to make me put Star Tropics on there. You know what else isn't on here? Maniac Mansion.
I'm not mad. I'm just it's going to keep me up at night. So I'm glad that we are airing this right now. So that way we can just spring clean our show. Just be like, this was a mistake. We shouldn't have bought this. It doesn't fit in our apartment.
That's right. So it's gone. It's hitting the road. We can come up with a new list of definitive best NES games.
I feel like a weight lifted off of me.
Me too. Mark, that is all of our lists. We've been through them all. We now know what is definitive and what is not definitive. Let's get out of this segment. And that, of course, is the bulk of our 200th episode spectacular. Thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you for joining us every week.
Yeah, or any week. We don't know if you listen every week.
We hope you do.
We would love you to listen every week. And look, if this was a little bit of a navel-gazy episode, look, we've done 200 of these.
We're very flexible.
We are very flexible, and man, we are so good at looking at them navels. So good at it. But if you think that there are any of our lists that we should throw out that we didn't, or any that we did throw out that we shouldn't, you should email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. And also, we love doing these lists, and we love doing them with listener input. And we've got some ideas coming up for the remainder of the year and the new year. But if you have topics that you think would be fun for us to collect, submissions from all of you. And something that you can really back up with either a story or something that's one of the reasons that the Zelda NPC episode is so good and why our list is so definitive is because you had to say why that character is good, why they're in contention to be the best. And we just got so many good stories about Maggie dating a moblin and Salvatore like hating his job but like still doing sound effects for the game, and all of this great stuff that comes out of that. So we want to do more lists like that for you. And like I said, we have some ideas, but we sure could use more. So you can always email those to us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com.
And before we sign off for our 200th episode, Patrick, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this show with me.
Mark,
I have fun every week.
Yeah, I do too. If we didn't force ourselves to like sit down at this table and talk about what we're enjoying in Nintendo and occasionally what we're frustrated with, but we've been pretty positive, and I'm proud of us for that. It makes us come together and spend time together and hang out. And we are good friends. Mark and I are good friends, but we're bad at being friends, I think, right? Like, it's just hard to find time to be together and just talk. And look, if you don't have your own podcast, I don't think you understand the value of taking the hour or 2 hours every week to just say, you have to talk to me for the next 2 hours. We're not going to look at our phones. We're not going to watch TV. We're just going to talk to each other. It's a magical thing. And I appreciate that you have done this with me as well, Mark. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. But we'll be back next week because we are not going to stop. You're going to see a 201 and 202 and onward into forever. Who knows? If you like this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. You can share it anywhere that you can share anything. Twitter, Facebook, it's all good. On Twitter, I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. If you like our opinions, we write about comic books on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying this show is always going to be definitive. And thanks for listening.
Campfire.